Thanks for joining me. My name is Rich Duffy. I'm a risk consultant at Webber Grinnell Insurance Agency in Northampton, Massachusetts, and today I'm going to talk with you about contractual risk transfer. So the first question you have is, what is contractual risk transfer, or CRT? Basically, it's a sub-agreement, right? So contractual risk transfer is a fancy way of saying shifting the risk onto the party who's in the best position to control whatever job site or service is being worked on or performed. And I'll let you guys go ahead and read that. You don't need me to read it to you. So the question is, why is CRT important? Firstly, we just talked about it shifts responsibility onto whoever's in the best position to control whatever is going on. Secondly is defense. Very important to write defense into your contracts because if it's written in there, any defense that comes out of the downstream party's insurance policy will actually be outside the limits of insurance. And if it's not written in there, then it's inside. And what that means is if it's inside the limits of insurance, it erodes any money available to pay a claim if it's inside the limit. And then thirdly is your ability to go out and get your own insurance. One of the big things, if you have good controls in place, it's going to open the markets up to carriers who are going to want to partner with your business, and they're going to give you really good rates. And the converse is true as well. If you don't have good controls in place, it's going to limit your options and potentially drive your rates up. So what needs to be in a good sub-agreement? The scope of work is really the first part. What's going to be done by who? Who's going to be responsible for materials, labor, which part of the job site? That all should be spelled out in here. And there's an example of a scope of work agreement that we help our clients with. Next is indemnification. And so you'll see here, this is actually a checklist that I borrowed from one of our carrier friends. And what they'll do is go through the checklist and see what you have and see what you don't and make their decisions based on that. So you'll see here, indemnify, hold harmless, and defend. And those are three provisions that really should be in there. We talked about defense just now, and that's the one that often gets left out. So you'll always see, or almost always see, indemnify and hold harmless. A lot of times defense doesn't make it in there. So really, really important to have that written in. And then you'll see the type of clause that triggers the indemnification provision. And those are actually dependent on which state you live in. So you see limited, intermediate, and broad. You want to make sure that your language in your sub-agreement matches the state that you're in. You actually don't want to overdo it because that can cause some contract problems as well. So on that same checklist is the insurance requirements. What lines of insurance are you requiring your subcontractors to carry, be it auto, general liability, workers' comp, umbrella, and any other stipulations that you might have here can be checked off and viewed very easily by the carriers. So contract management, right? How are you going to keep track of all of this stuff? What does your process look like? And the one that we recommend most often is to have a master sub-agreement signed once a year, and then for each job that comes up, you're doing a work order that goes back onto that master agreement. The other way to do it is sign an individual sub-agreement for each job that's going on. The other thing to keep track of here is the certificates of insurance from your subs. When do those come up? Different policies might come up at different times. So you want to have a process in place to take care of that. And then down here, we've got some sample language. We talked about the scope of work provision, and that's what's here. I'm not going to read this for you, but you can go back and rewind the recording later if you want to see it. Next, we have the indemnification provision. So you'll see in here, they have all three: indemnify, defend, and hold harmless. That's all in there as well. And then lastly, an example of the insurance requirements. You'll see on there general liability, auto, workers' comp, and umbrella, and the limits that they're asking for as well. So thanks for joining me today. If you need help updating your sub-agreements or have any questions about any of the material that I covered today, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is below. Thanks again for joining me.